Tonight, Sadiq Khan overcomes another ULEZ hurdle. Today's vote was all about the money. The mayor's budget did get the green light, but the row over his expansion of the ultra-low emission zone rages on.
I'm quite clear it's the right thing to do to improve the quality of air in London.
Well, to paraphrase your earlier comment, Londoners hate this policy and you don't care.
Rob Knox's parents and Harry Potter co-stars speak on his brutal murder 15 years on.
It was beyond belief, to be honest with you, especially in the way that it happened, because he was definitely not the sort of character, in my mind, that would have got involved in something like that at all.
I'm here in Trafalgar Square as London prepares to stand in solidarity with Ukraine almost a year to the day since the war began.
And Barnet FC bids farewell to the king of commentators and most famous fan, John Watson, who's died aged 77. Good evening. It was a day of fiery exchanges at City Hall as Sadiq Khan's budget was debated by the London Assembly. The expansion of the ultra-low emission zone was, unsurprisingly, the most hotly contested subject. The Conservatives put forward an amendment to have the expansion delayed, suggesting instead that the money be better spent on green buses. The Liberal Democrats said more money was urgently needed for the scrappage scheme, but in the last hour, both of those suggestions were voted down by Labour, meaning the mayor has taken a significant step closer to making his ULEZ expansion plans a reality. Sam Holder has the latest.
Good boy.
Teddy has PCD. It's a breathing disorder, and his family say it means having a car is a necessity. They have to take regular trips to hospitals and carry specialist equipment. But from August, their home in Croydon will be part of the ULEZ expansion zone. Their car isn't compliant. They can't afford another. And it's not currently clear if Teddy's condition will be classed as an exempt disability.
It would break us. It would literally break us. We absolutely can't afford it. But the alternative is we can't afford to buy a new car. So we would just have to pay the £12.50 a day and just be financially ruined. Which is, you know, we'd have to take it away from something else.
In 200 yards, turn left towards...
Kingsley was inspired to set up a group opposing ULEZ online. It now has 25,000 members. He says even if his family are granted a disability grace period until 2027, he won't stop campaigning.
I see all the messages that people leave on the groups. People send me personal messages about their stories. Nurses saying that, you know, if they have to do a night shift, they're going to have to pay £12.50 to go to work. Finish after midnight, and have to pay £12.50 to go back home again.
That may be your words, not my words.
There's been much fighting talk about the expansion, a theme which continued with heated scenes at the London Assembly today.
There's amendments on the back of a fag packet. Quite frankly, how dare you?
Can we please just still maintain some decorum, OK?
As Sadiq Khan's plans were voted through.
And I specifically asked the finance...
The Lib Dems tabled an amendment calling for an extra £100 million for the ULEZ scrappage scheme and £25 million more for outer London bus services.
I'm afraid, Mr Mayor, at the moment TfL is currently planning to reduce the frequency of bus services in outer London, such as the 213 between Sutton and Kingston, a reduction of around 90,000 kilometres a year. You can't have it both ways either. And the one thing I would reflect on, Mr Mayor, stop interrupting me. You interrupt all the women in this chamber when we speak. You are playing games here. We are trying to find ways to help make ULEZ work in outer London. We're putting genuine suggestions on the table and you throw it back in our face and show cheap politics.
Their amendment was voted down. The Conservatives also announced their own, asking for the expansion to be suspended until the mayoral election next year, as well as speeding up the move to make all of London's buses zero emission. It also failed to pass.
Given the huge cross-party public concern around your expansion plans, given the request to delay this scheme from your own MPs, will you finally listen to Londoners and cancel these damaging plans?
I'm quite clear on whose side I am on this issue. As I've been on other public health issues, from smoking in public spaces in 2006, I'm quite clear it's the right thing to do to improve the quality of air in London.
The cost of compliant vehicles has gone through the roof.
Pre-ULEZ, this is 2015 Transit, possibly about £7,000, £8,000, now 25.
The owner of this coach hire firm understands the problem with pollution, but says the way expansion has been handled is causing financial chaos, especially after COVID.
As we're trying to claw our way back, build up clientele, carry on, progress, now, I daren't say Mr. Khan has now imposed this on us, making it impossible.
5 councils have launched a legal bid to try to stop the mayor's plans, but he cleared another roadblock today with his budget approved.
So he's cleared another blockage, but the Tories have put forward their own ideas of cutting pollution in the capital, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right, Charlene. Pretty late. I mean, it was announced this morning and the vote was this afternoon. And what they've essentially said is that they're also making air quality sort of a central policy for them. But rather than the ULEZ, which they claim is too much of a blanket concept, they're going to be more targeted. At the heart of their announcement today was that they want to suspend the ULEZ expansion until the mayoral election next year and make it an election issue. They also said they would put £500 million towards speeding up the rollout of emission-free buses. They're already being planned, but they'd bring it forward by a few years to 2030. And that they'd also give a £50 million pot, a pollution hotspot pot, to local authorities to target pollution in the worst areas. Now, obviously, these have only been announced today, so we haven't had much time to digest it. So I wanted to hear what an air quality expert made of these proposals.
Distributing the funds to local authorities comes with a level of uncertainty. We're not sure exactly how the councils would spend the money, what kind of actions they would implement, and whether those would actually be effective at reducing air pollution. Another issue with air pollution is that it doesn't just come from local sources. So it makes it challenging for local authorities to regulate sources within their jurisdiction.
The Conservative amendment was voted down, but it's clear that that's going to be kind of a central part of their policy ahead of the election. What's interesting is that air quality is something that all parties are taking very seriously now, and it's something that Sadiq Khan has been very vocal about for a long time.
OK, Sam, thanks very much. And the ULEZ expansion will be the subject of fiery discussion, no doubt, on tonight's edition of The Late Debate. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris, with the look ahead. Si.
Oh yes, Charlene, lively debate on the programme tonight. We'll be asking how much trouble the Mayor is in over ULEZ. On the evidence of today, he's determined to press ahead. As if he's not got enough on his plate, he also wants to reopen the debate about rejoining the European single market. We'll hear from some London businesses about their post-Brexit problems attracting staff. And we'll be talking to the man with one of the toughest jobs in politics, Greg Hands, the Chelsea and Fulham MP. As Conservative Party chair, it's his job to win the next election for the Tories. That's The Late Debate here on ITV1 after News at 10.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Simon. Zara Alina's aunt has met with the Deputy Prime Minister to discuss failings in the justice system. Zara was murdered as she walked home in Ilford last June. Her killer, Jordan McSweeney, refused to attend court for sentencing. Dominic Raab says he's committed to bringing forward legislation to ensure murderers face justice and cannot excuse themselves from hearings. London doctors are warning that laughing gas can cause serious health issues. The Royal London Hospital team say the number of people misusing nitrous oxide is on the rise and that patients are often unaware of the risks. Heavy use of the drug, most commonly used by teenagers, can lead to bladder and bowel problems, incontinence and spine damage. And Transport for London is urging the Tube Drivers Union to call off what it calls a damaging strike on the 15th of March. ASLEF warned this could be just the first day of action if TfL forces through changes for workers without agreement. TfL says it's working with unions to make the Underground a fairer and more sustainable place. Next tonight, the murder of Rob Knox and the effect it had on his family is the subject of a new documentary on ITVX. The aspiring actor was stabbed to death in Sidcup just days after filming his breakthrough role as Marcus Belby in Harry Potter. Today, his father told ITV News he hopes sharing their story will get people talking about knife crime. He's been speaking to Carolyn Sim.
I think in my heart, I knew that he was probably dead then.
It's a story of grief.
He just went to me, Mum, quick, leave the car, get down there, Rob's on the pavement.
Of a young actor from Bexley who'd landed a part in a Harry Potter movie.
So shocking. He was a very easy a naturally talented guy to work with.
And it's a story about knife crime, of an 18-year-old stabbed to death, and the rising numbers of young victims just like him. Rob's dad told me he hopes the documentary will get people talking.
Most people are saying, well, it's just another death. They've become immune to it. It's another one, it's another one. But when you say another one, that means a person's been killed. That means there's a family that is wrecked for the rest of their lives. So Rob is the vehicle, the medium for us to speak to whoever's listening.
Rob had been trying to protect his brother when he was stabbed outside a bar in Sidcup in May 2008. In the days after his death, his family spoke to reporters.
He's my best friend.
He never got to see his performance as student Marcus Belby in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The film was released 6 weeks after his death. Fellow actors recall their shock.
He was definitely not the sort of character, in my mind, that would have got involved in something like that at all. So to hear that his life had come to the end in that manner was distressing, I think, for all of us.
We thought it was very important to include as many of the cast of Harry Potter in there as possible, because we knew that going forward the strength would be, we would have to play to those tabloids back in 2008, the Harry Potter actor.
As the film points out, there have been nearly 3,000 victims of fatal knife crime since Rob's death, and his dad wants people to know the pain it causes.
People say that time's a healer. I tend to say that you adopt a new way of life to deal with the loss, the fact that I won't be going to his wedding, the birth of any children that I may have had. I've been robbed of that.
And it's actor Ray Winston who enforces the simple message.
Never. I wish it'd all stop tomorrow, but I'm afraid that's not going to happen. It's just getting worse. When's it all going to end?
Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Still to come, we'll have the weekend weather forecast, plus
the crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Remembering the man behind the mic, we look back at the life of legendary football commentator John Motty Watson. But first, tomorrow will mark a year since Russian forces first invaded Ukraine. In that time, more than 160,000 Ukrainian refugees have moved to the UK to rebuild their lives and, in some cases, continue their studies. At the London Performing Academy of Music, one particular group of students were given special exemption from fighting and brought to the capital because of their incredible talent, as Daniel Henry reports.
They didn't fight on Ukraine's front line, but these young musicians still bear the scars of war.
I heard bombs, I heard this was close to me, just a street near me. Yeah, but I understand it's what happened to each other. Or us, I think.
I miss my previous life because, you know, I lose my studies, I lose my job, I lose my girlfriend. Yeah, it's too much for the short period, you know.
So now our family separate. My mom and brother in Ukraine, my brother in Poland, I'm in the UK, and it's so hard that you almost 1 year. We're just separate and it's awful.
They managed to make their way out of a war zone with the help of the London Performing Academy of Music. As they were studying with them online, bosses here decided to bring them over to complete their studies.
Music has nothing to do with the war. War has nothing to do with these guys or my professors and artists in Russia. War is outside of any sense and should just stop, basically. Without anyone winning or losing, just stop now.
Stefania has raised funds and secured scholarships for some students, but not all.
What happens if there is no scholarship? If the scholarships don't come through, what happens then?
I will find a way. I will find. I'm not going to let them down.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure.
Without the scholarships, Stefania knows their studies will have to stop. Tonight, they'll be performing at the Music Education Awards, and they're determined to keep the show on the road.
And Dana, you're at Trafalgar Square tonight, aren't you? Because both the US and Ukrainian embassies are holding a vigil as a mark of solidarity, aren't they?
That's right, and the atmosphere is really picking up here as the artists behind me start to play to show that support for Ukraine, almost a year to the day since the war broke out. I'm joined now by Hamdi Ulmaka, who is from the 10th Refugees Partnership. You've been supporting people to find jobs, supporting people to find work. How have you managed to get on with that, and what are you finding the challenges that Ukrainians are having?
Sure, Daniel. I mean, in the US, we launched 10 Partnership for Refugees in 2016. After my experience in business at Chobani, hiring refugees in our community in upstate New York, and realizing how impactful that is in refugees' life. And we say the minute refugee has a job, that's the minute they stop being a refugee, but also how businesses benefits and community and society benefits from it. From that experience, launching 10th in 2016, today we have over 300 companies worldwide, amazing brands, amazing companies, motivated to hire and train refugees.
And how are you finding Ukrainians benefit from that? I mean, what are they telling you that they need when it comes to that support? I mean, I was with a group of musicians today, and they're incredible, telling me about what life is like back home and how they miss it, but how they're here now and trying to find a way to make a new life.
So true. So this is first year, right? It's 1 year has passed. We are here and standing united with Ukrainians who are across Europe. I think people of Europe, people of UK responded so beautifully a year ago when millions crossed the borders, opening their communities, opening their home, and welcoming them with open arms. Today we realize that we know that this war is going to continue. And the Ukrainians are 90% women and children, and they're educated, they have skills, and they want to stand on their own feet. And that's where business community come into play. Absolutely. And so we're launching in June Europe's first business summit, hire Ukrainian refugees all across Europe, and we are mobilizing businesses to hire them, train them, and also support them any way they can.
And I think that support, I think we saw another example of that today. There was some artwork that had been painted outside of the Russian embassy. We saw the Ukrainian flag put there. And here tonight, we're hearing people say, Slava Ukrainia. I mean, it's incredible, really, the support that people are putting behind Ukraine for everything that people have gone through.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best example of humanity at work, right? This square is it's in our memories after World War II, what happened, right? And this is the largest human tragedy that we've seen since World War II. And when we know that our neighbors and our friends are in trouble, and we open our communities and our arms, and this is where we can move humanity forward. And I think what Ukrainians has gone through in their home with this invasion, and how Europeans are responded, and how world is responded, we're really writing history. But I think it's extremely critical and extremely important.
That's right.
Is that businesses step up.
You're absolutely right. Well, thank you so much for that. Incredible here tonight. The support for Ukraine carries on.
Dan, thank you. Now to the death of a football legend, not on the pitch, but off. John Motson, arguably the king of commentators, has died at the age of 77. He had a career that spanned 50 years, which included 10 World Cups. But despite being born in the Northwest, it was a London club that held his heart. Rags Martel looks back at the life of Barnet FC's most famous fan.
And there it is! The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Football has lost its voice. Whatever the weather, Motti's mouth was devoted to the beautiful game.
Chapter to Wycombe's famous cup history, because as you can see, this part of Buckinghamshire is absolutely snowbound.
But his heart belonged to one club.
I am a Barnet fan.
As he told us, just after he'd retired, Barnet is where John Motson's football reporting all began.
Has it changed a lot since 1963?
Everything's changed since then, hasn't it? Football's changed more than anything else, hasn't it?
His last challenge.
His BBC career spanned half a century.
Oh dear me.
Covering 10 World Cups and more than 200 England games.
When I was a teenager, I wanted to be John Motson. And the connection, the relationship that he formed with probably millions of people that he never met is what makes him so special. And all I can tell those people is that the John Motson they heard was the real John Motson. There was no front. With Motti, he did what it said on the tin. He let the football be the star.
I used to condense all my information onto one card.
His match preparation was meticulous. Handwritten facts and figures, colour-coded, with the help of his wife.
Players' names, biographies, comments, stats on the back.
I've developed a certain notoriety for the commentary charts that I prepare. They are a total piece of theft from John Motson. I unashamedly copied his style of preparation.
But was the commentator a secret Chelsea fan? Here's an extract of his autobiography after he'd retired. "You can't evade the question forever," he wrote, "especially when I look up from my desk while writing this and see 2 shelves of Chelsea programmes covering 40 years. Chelsea played in the first match I went to with my dad in 1952. But over at Barnet, they're having none of it. For them, Motson was a fan of the Bees from the beginning.
Are fine, but we're a real football club. He started his career in Barnet, and I think we had a special place for him. I know that. He told me that.
Motti was 77, the voice of football, who gave us all the matches of our days.
An utter legend. OK, before we go, let's take a look at the weather ahead. Here's Philippa Drew with the forecast.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. Well, it's certainly been a rather cloudy day out there for many of us today, and it sets the tone really for the next few days. A good deal of cloud on the way, but it should be mostly dry, and it will feel a little bit chillier than it has done of late. Now, it's all down to this area of high pressure currently out towards the west of the UK. That will sneak its way steadily eastwards as we head into the weekend, becoming well established right over the UK through Saturday and Sunday, keeping things settled, rather cloudy, and around that high pressure will start to pull in winds from the north and northeast, and that will make it feel somewhat chillier than of late. Out there at the moment, the earlier cloud is now starting to clear away southwards, and actually through this evening and tonight, with largely clear skies overhead, we will see temperatures falling away, getting below freezing in some spots, and that in turn giving rise to a fairly widespread, albeit slight frost. So tomorrow morning, a bright and chilly start initially, but it won't be long before we see more in the way of clouds sneaking down from the north. That's tied up with a weak weather front, and that could also bring a few spots of rain come the middle part of the day and into the early afternoon. But it's not going to amount to very much. For most of us, a good deal of dry weather around tomorrow, and later on, as it starts to clear southwards, some bright or sunny spells appearing. But you can see temperatures will be a bit of a struggle again tomorrow, similar to today, 8 to 10 Celsius the high, add on the breeze, and feeling fresher still. So that weather front will continue on its journey southwards as we head overnight into Saturday. Behind it, much drier weather coming in, that high pressure really starting to take effect. So a good deal of dry weather through the weekend, cloudier into the new week, and colder, especially in the breeze.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Well, that's it from us. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Mary's up next, of course, with the ITV Evening News. But for me and the rest of the London team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.